So this week, I had promised to talk about Hannukah and the lights that are burning in the darkness and the powerful message that can come out of that. But my process got completely derailed when one of our members asked me a question. Are you feeling like you don't believe in God these days? And it was asked after that last sermon that I preached, the one from last week. And in it, I spoke about being with a patient who had lost his daughter in a terrible accident and who raged against me and against God, against me because I was a chaplain who stood in for that God in that moment. And I talked about how in that moment with that patient, I prayed to a God who wasn't there, one whose absence was unforgivable. The question that member asked me has gotten stuck in my shoe. Are you feeling like you don't believe in God these days? And I have found my mind circling back to it again and again. Lucas, what do you think of God these days? Does that word hold any meaning? What way is God showing up for you if it does? And I know there's a slight danger in talking about God. Maybe not so slight. Some people have good, strong reasons not to use the language about God. As that wise singer Ani DeFranco put it, any tool is a weapon if you hold it the right way. And God has been weaponized in all sorts of ways. And that doesn't even touch the intellectual disagreements people have with the word. And I truly hear those concerns. And I believe that those perspectives are are valid and needed. They form an important part of our living tradition. And what I love about Unitarian Universalism is that we can all speak different languages without turning into babble, and instead be enriched by difference. And I never want that to stop being true. That said, I have come to use God language more and more. To me, God is the touch of the transcendent, the opening to something other and ultimate, boundless and sublime, powerful and primordial and apocalyptic, whispering of mysterious beginnings and final endings all at once. God is the splinter of the infinite in the ordinary, the opening to everything that lives in the something. It's this crashing together, this overabundance of meaning that is forced into a single word that cannot hold it and yet is made to do so. I love this quote from Antonin Artaud. He's a novelist, and he's not talking about God here, but his words get very close to my experience of the divine. I really felt like you were shattering the atmosphere around me, that you were creating a void in order to allow me to progress, in order to offer the expanse of an impossible space to that which within me was potentiality only, to a whole virtual germination that must be sucked into life by the interval which offered itself. In other words, God, the splinter of the infinite, opens me and turns me inside out. It undoes what I think and know. Solidity melts into potentiality. Certainty turns into wonder. Closure becomes opening. Trajectories split in unforeseen directions. I lose my bearings. Whatever it is that I thought of myself and the world, about how things are supposed to be, about categories and hierarchies, I feel them evacuate, reform, turn in and turn out, shatter and open all at once. My experience of God is undeniably queer. And queer theology is body theology. It understands faith not as an intellectual engagement with abstract questions. God isn't something that you believe in or not believe in. It's rather an embodied pursuit experienced through moments that quicken the pulse. It's sensual. God is the breath on the neck, the caress in the dark, the shudder of being fully alive. God is scintillating existence that penetrates enclosure and sucks you into life. God is the juice that runs down your chin when you bite into an overripe peach. As Laurel Schneider and Thalathia Nikki Young put it, through the feelings that we experience in our bodies, ecstatic and torturous and suspending, we are able to connect with a divine knowing, which is always a knowing about being fully alive. It is the extended or fleeting moments of ecstasy when we are seeking and sating our own flourishing, when our words slip into moans, and our bodies speak in shudders, those moments when we relinquish what we think for the sake of what our bodies know. It's that skin-tingling, toe-curling knowledge that links us with ourselves and with God. Amen. My own encounters with God, I would say they're less intellectual and even mystical. I would say that they're ecstatic. God is the clouding out of all knowing, the emptying of the self. It's shattering and it's coming apart. It's the split into infinity that unravels the finite, that pushes forward in 1,000 different trajectories at once. My deepest experience with God feels quite close to Bernini's Teresa, who is on her back, tearing open the gift that God gave her, rather than God as an omnipotent and distant being in the sky. My God is not that God. My God is one that I lust after, and who in turn lusts after me. Are you feeling that you don't believe in God these days? That question resonated for me as my sense of God has been shaken over this past year. We are feeling our way through the dark, questioning what to grab hold of and how to make sense of the present. There's a deadness in this current moment, a crust of nihilism that covers over any reasonable hope. It can feel like a dark interval that has swallowed all light. And so where do I feel the transcendent, the sacred, the opening that turns me inside out and penetrates the enclosure of my certainty? Can it be found? Is there a God of the dark interval, the God that shows up in the void, the splinter of the infinite, the brush of transcendence that appears in the place that all meaning has fled? That has been my search this year. And I know that I am not alone in searching for that God. Indeed, there is a whole tradition of thought that lusts for that God. It's called negative theology. And it's not negative here as bad, but rather what we might think of with a photo negative. It's the dark space rather than the light space where it finds God. It's a paradoxical theology that finds God in the moments where God is not. It looks to the moments where hope has fled, where goodness is vanquished, where presence has become absence, where you only see the desolate landscape. There it finds the God of the impossible, a God that only shows up in places where God cannot be. how do we describe the political moment that we're living through? I have started to refer to it as a politics of necrophilia. It's a lust for death and destruction, for targeting and tormenting groups of people, one that tantalizes with hatred and corruption and greed. It changes the political landscape by cannibalizing the possibility for change. It's vampiric, draining life and hope. It opens a void, a vacuum that swallows light, and its blackness can feel total, blinding. It's into this void that the God of negative theology whispers. The God of the impossible offers a dark epiphany, a dangerous promise that the more certain these powers are of their invincibility, the more certainly they will face an apocalypse. Despotic and authoritarian systems are never permanent, and they contain within them the promise of their undoing. As the mystic and theologian Simone Weil puts it, God makes it impossible for the world to close in on itself. There's something deliciously subversive and transgressive about that God that shows up as fragment and threat, as hope and vision, as stumbling block and apocalypse for systems of domination and oppression. That God is the whisper that you, O great empire, you too shall fall. You will not last forever. Your solidity will break apart. You are fragile and can be toppled. God is the fissure, the crack in the edifice of power that threatens to break it open. And we see this, don't we? We see this. It's true. Possibilities for resistance, for feeding our neighbors who are in fear, forming interfaith coalitions, and throwing sand in the gears of injustice. Those options show up at moments when change feels especially impossible. And no one plans for them to come about that way, which also means that no one can foresee and foreclose them. There are moments that can only come about when darkness closes in and it feels total, and yet it isn't. Somehow there's a splinter of undoing that opens a space for something different. It's here that I find this secret truth, a truth that has become ever more evident to me as I have grappled with God this year. It's that the God of impossibility, the God that shows up in the places where God can never be, isn't hopelessness, but is rather deep hope, a powerful and persuasive hope, the hope that emerges exactly when things seem least hopeful. Because really, if God or meaning isn't there, if all possibility has truly fled and hope has died in those moments, what use is God or meaning showing up anywhere else? Another paradox, this God of hopeless moments might just be the most hopeful. Oh, your absence, God, your terrible absence in which I doubt and fear. How is it that I somehow still find you, find your possibility in the impossibility, speak your name when it can no longer be spoken, find a miracle of light that burns days after it should go out? It's you God of the dark that I love with my whole body. It's you who quicken my pulse and blur my vision, make me tremble and sweat, that turns everything I know inside out and makes me ever more grateful for the failure of my certainty. I crave you in a place unfit for speaking. Your presence floods me and I see the light in the dark, the living in the dead, the the opening in the closure, the possible in the impossible. Oh God, let me feel your breath. Caress me in the dark. Whisper to me about miracles. I lust for you in your absence.